This is Frank Romano. Well, I just received a care package from Mark Michelson. Mark is the editor-in-chief of Printing Impressions. This is one of the ancient issues of Printing Impressions. They go back to the 1950s as such. I don't know if he was cleaning out his desk or cleaning out his office, or this was stuff he saved on purpose over the years. First, there was a type specimen book from Mac Printing. Mac was in the Pennsylvania area, eastern Pennsylvania, was one of the more famous typesetting companies in the US. I don't know if they set the type for Printing Impressions or not. And by the way, it's a very nice binder, so perhaps that's why Mark saved it all these years. He also had an Intertype book of instructions. I guess he was interested in how the Linecaster worked. There was a Pocket Pal, of course. Everyone had a Pocket Pal. It goes back to the 1930s. I was the editor for 35 years or so. This is the 6th edition from 1960. This was one of the spiral bound versions of it. Later on, they became perfect bound. There's a dictionary of printing terms used in the paper and printing industry. An editor would certainly want to have that at hand. Basic texts for apprentices in lithography. Single color offset press. Again, in the 1950s and 60s, offset was just coming into the mainstream of the printing industry. So any editor would want to keep track of how those kinds of devices operated. Print shop arithmetic. And by the way, it's a unique form of arithmetic because you're dealing with measurement systems that not of the norm, if you will. Little book here, Instruments and Controls for the Graphic Arts Industries. Certainly something that would be written about. The whole nature of the printing industry is measuring and controlling. A little book on relative humidity. By the way, the first air conditioning system that was ever invented was put into a printing company, by the way, that did lithography in Brooklyn in 1910 or so. A guide to page makeup at Science Press. Science Press was one of the more famous typesetting companies for doing mathematical, chemical, and other kinds of esoteric typesetting. Pocket edition of the copy fitting guide that Linotype did. We used to make millions of these and send them out. Oh, all kinds of measuring guides. A proportion guide. Everyone had a proportion guide. That's how you figured out the size of the photograph you were going to use or the image you were going to use. Pica ruler from Mac Printing Company that would be used to measure leading and point size. A paperweight calculator. Everybody had one of these, or they had a different version of it. Of course, today it's all done electronically. But the one that I think is the most interesting is Printing as a Hobby by J. Ben Lieberman. Ben Lieberman was the founder of the American Printing History Association. And he had in his living room in Tarrytown, New York, a printing press that goes back to the arts and crafts movement. William Morris was bought by Frederick Goudy, and then Lieberman bought it from Goudy. And you couldn't leave his house unless you printed on that press. And he had a whole ceremony, ringing a bell, you signed a book. The night I was there, I signed right after Alfred Knopf, which was interesting. That press went into storage for a long time after Ben died. Then it was acquired by RIT, and today it's in the Carey collection and used on a regular basis for printing. So I'm glad it's still there, but I'm glad that Mark had a copy of Printing as a Hobby, a great little book. In any case, thank you, Mark, for this wonderful collection of printing memorabilia, the things that an editor saved over 50 years.